But it's worth noting, by the way, that so when we get into the next season, which we're doing now, and you might see a little fiddling on the screen right now, it's not Lee.
It's not Lee. We have the master, David Greco, the senior car handling designer for F1 2018, sitting alongside us on a wheel. He's going to take you round. So he is going to be driving for us live. Always love it when that happens.
It's certainly going to be better than me trying to drive the car, which, as I'm sure some of you already seen this year, doesn't always go to plan.
It's Top Gear's made it look easy, right?
I can do it in some situations.
Yeah. Obviously, Greco has it on the highest settings. We're obviously at that level ourselves, all of us.
Always.
But we can't do it and talk.
Okay, so we're back in the hub environment. Let's go and have a look at the outcome of the season, the rule changes.
I'm really excited about this. I don't know how this is going to play out.
Here we go. So, I've done badly.
Oh wow!
I've actually dropped. I've dropped Williams to the bottom. So whatever I've protected was probably not the best plan.
Yeah.
But looking at the top, Red Bull have moved up. So let's have a look at actually the winners and the losers in this situation. So if we go to the progress. So what have we got there? We've got Red Bull. They've moved up.
Look at that.
Mercedes actually managed to conserve. They didn't lose any performance. They did well. Ferrari saw big gains.
Look at McLaren.
McLaren
smashed it.
That would have. Fernando would have stayed.
Yeah, that's typical Fernando, right?
Bad timing. He's just been so unlucky. Yeah. But if that had been true to how things were like in the next season, I'm sure he'd be happy to stay. But you can see Williams have dropped there and they've dropped below Sauber. So that's just an example of how things can play out at the end of one of the seasons, and that's obviously going into season 2. Yeah. So each season will be unique, and everybody will get a different experience. If anybody's following some of the big YouTubers, they'll see them all having a very different career experience as well. I think it really keeps things fresh and exciting.
What you can't see off camera at the moment is that you've really angered Dave with that one. He's not a happy man with the car that you've given him there. Yeah,
so he's going to be driving the weakest car in the field against the AI now.
Without further ado, I think we're going to dive into a practice session, but in particular we're going to be doing the ARS management.
Yeah.
So talk us, while we set that up and we go through that, talk us through a little bit about the ARS management and why that's important this year, and how it's obviously it's new for 2018.
Yeah, it's new for 2018. It's been in the sport for a few years. And what we realised, it was a really great gameplay mechanic on track. We know that the cars are brilliant to drive in the game, but we wanted to inject that that extra level of not only strategy but just excitement into the racing. Yeah. And the ARS really does mix things up. So in the first instance, you'll see Dave driving around here doing the ARS management program. Yeah. And you'll get an idea of how you how you conserve and how you deploy and how that plays out over the lap. And on certain tracks, it's really hard to get the best out of it, but it can make such a huge impact to your lap time. So a good example is only last week I was doing Baku. Okay. And I found the ERS practice program for Baku absolutely invaluable, because I could not work out how to get a good lap out of that car around Baku and balance my ERS usage. And by following the program, I worked out the best places to run full deployment, or when to actually run even with absolutely no deployment. So as you can see there with Dave on screen, so what you can see on the multifunction display in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, as well as on the car screen as well, you can see that there's a large blue bar with a percentage below it. Okay. So that is actually full battery. That's how much battery charge you've got as a whole. So at the moment you've got around 60%. Okay. The small blue box with a little lightning symbol, that's actually the deployment mode it's currently in. So he's deploying level 2, which is medium. Now he's actually conserving. And the D and the H bars, D's deployment. So we built this system by the rules. So the amount you can deploy over a lap is actually correct by the rules of Formula 1. So there's only so much you can deploy, so every kilojoules a lap. And the same with the harvesting. So the H there is how much you can actually harvest over the course of a lap. So there's no point running and harvesting loads and loads if you harvested your maximum amount.
Of course, yeah.
So now we'll get to see Dave warming his
tyres there.
Set about a lap of the ERS practice program.
Even that's impressive to me.
I regularly lose control just trying to move aggressively. That's the kind of thing I do.
So how do you see kind of ERS working during a race strategically?
So in a race situation, it's incredible. Not only watching how the AI manage it themselves. I've found myself in recent weeks going back and watching race replays and going on board with the AI to see who's managing the ARS differently, because they do manage it. Firstly, there's the obvious, this is a good way to get a good lap time out of it, but then they also have to consider where they are in that point of the race, who they're currently racing with, where they are, track position, whether they're defending or attacking, or whether they're actually just in a fairly static sort of place. So I found that the other day, again using Baku as a prime example, I couldn't work out the best way to get past Charles Leclerc, who was in front of me. I was driving, I was in the Toro Rosso, and I got a good run on him on the final straight. Obviously it's an enormous straight. I thought I'd conserved enough to actually make a pass, turned the throttle up to rich, full overtake mode on the ERS. In fact, I think I even went to hot lap, which is probably where I made the mistake, because that really does take it very quickly. I've got DRS open, and I was in slipstream, and I thought, right, I'm going to get in this lap. And right at the end of the straight, I thought, right, there's another straight coming up after this. I'm going to be a sitting duck. Yeah. So I just knocked it down a couple of levels to try and at least save a little, and then maybe brake and get some more back. And the second I pulled out of his slipstream, I hit that wall of drag, and he retained the position. So I managed to stay in touch because I retained some ERS charge for the next straight. But the next lap, I knew better how to handle that and how to get the move. And it still took me a couple of laps to actually get to grips with where he was using his, where I was best to use mine. And the strategic element's incredible. And I think sort of interesting places, sort of going up the Kemmel Straight at Spa, when you find somebody who's the advantage, because obviously going up the hill as well, so you're fighting against that. It really is very noticeable. The performance difference of the car that's got full charge and is running at those levels compared to a car that's running even just a couple of levels less.
So do you think that means that we'll have kind of a lot more, if you really think about your battles, a lot more going into corners, how you go in, how you go out, where you conserve, all that stuff? Do you think it's going to really make it a lot more exciting to go into the race?
I think if you're playing with people who are running with that in particular, then it's really going to mix things up. If you decide if it's too much for you to actually cope with, you can actually run in full auto mode and the game will handle it for you. But again, you've still got to consider where you play your moves, where you're actually going to have that full charge. But yeah, it really mixes the racing up. So I can only apologise to Dave for unfortunately not giving him a strong car this season.
You've not made things easy for him.
Yeah, this is no reflection on his driving here. This is all Lee's fault. Let's not forget that.
So Dave is taking it in his stride though.
He's doing a cracking job. I mean,
so what you can see at the moment is he's just actually turned the ERS deployment down to none. So he's building up some charge, ready for his next lap. When he's going to have to try and keep a very clean lap, and he's also going to need to conserve enough ERS to actually be effective throughout the course of the lap.
Yeah, it's fine margins, isn't it? I mean, it's really it just adds another layer, I think, to obviously to the gameplay. Like it's something that you really have to think about, and for all the purists out there, the guys who race mine and regularly race through seasons, that's going to be huge for them, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's another area of the car that you can upgrade as well. So it's when you're focusing on the upgrades and what you're going to save each season if the rules change, it's important to make sure that that's an area that you pay attention to, because at the end of the day, you're a sitting duck on the straight, you haven't got power. Yeah. It doesn't matter how good you are on the corners if somebody can breeze past you on the straight. Yeah,
is that something that will be affected by regulation changes as well?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's another one of the components that can change. His borderline here, this is looking really nicely managed so far.
Let's give him the commentator's curse then. I think that's normally what happens, isn't it?
So he's keeping the time right on the cusp, but he's keeping it in the purple, which is really impressive. So normally around Melbourne, I would, to be fair, probably for the first half of the lap, I would probably be struggling on ERS, and I would be down on charge. Yeah. And then at this point of the lap, I would still be struggling, and then as soon as this corner finishes, I'd really try and pull it back a little bit. Yeah. I always keep it very marginal around Melbourne. It's a really tough one.
Oh, there we go!
So you can see, this is
Lee
totally live.
That's what happens when you don't give somebody a strong car.
Yeah.
That's my fault.
Greasy track as well.
We've given him the commentator's curse.
We literally did give him the commentator's curse there as well. That was a big biff. It did well to actually just lose the front wing there, to be honest. Yeah. I think. He held it. Yeah, he held it well. Into the pits we go. Angry mechanics waiting for him there. So what? There we go.
There we go. So it seems like a good time to talk about the new handling features of F1 2018. So the tyre. So the new tyre carcasses. Could you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, so hopefully when Dave's finished repairing his wing, it'd be nice if we get him back out on track and actually bring that up on the MFD. So something that you definitely see in the sport is that managing tyres on a lap by lap basis is something the drivers do, but also you hear them get the feedback from their engineers about the sort of the longer term benefits of managing the tyre temperatures. And it's very much the internal temperature of the tyre moves much slower than the external temperature, and that's where the carcass is, the internal temperature of the tyre, and it builds up much slower, and it goes down much slower, but obviously being outside of the optimal window is going to cause a reduction in grip, and that's something that we wanted the player to experience this year, and something that in the longer stints in particular, that becomes something that the player has to manage. In the shorter term races and so 5-lap races, it's probably something that you probably never really have to manage.
Okay.
If you're doing a 25% distance, 50%, 100% distance, you will need to manage that carcass temperature.
Okay, so what should we should basically, let's dive into a bit more practice so Dave can sort of fine tune his skills, because then we're going to have qualifying session, and then a 5-lap last around Albert Park. So he's having a little tweak there. But I think it's probably a good time to take some comments from the comment section. There's a lot of you watching today.
There's an awful lot.
There's an awful lot there.
Hi.
You almost can't keep up. Hello everyone. A lot of people are mentioning Arav, who they may have spotted was in the.
Funny enough, when we went into the hub environment, he was actually sat just in front of me to the right.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, maybe that's why the car's so bad. Maybe he's trying to set it up.
He wants to pass the buck and blame somebody else.
Let's blame Arav for that one.
So we do have quite a lot of our community members. If you remember, back in 2017, they came for community testing week. We scanned all of their faces, and they are all in the game. So you will see them kind of whilst you're playing the game as your pick mechanic or as a reporter or various different bits and pieces. And so you'll see them as you play the game.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think it's nice seeing you're just seeing little familiar faces every now and then.
I mean it's a shame that some of them won't be recognisable, because obviously not everybody who came in and visited us and gave us feedback on the game were big YouTubers. Some of them actually have no interest in YouTube at all, and they're just big league racers, and they came in and gave us feedback. So you won't recognise everybody, but there is going to be some recognisable faces in there, definitely.
Now this is interesting. This is something that a lot of people have been talking about, and a lot of people have questions about. This view right now. What can you tell us about this view? Obviously it's a Halo and youth for 2018 as well.
Yeah, and I actually find that I don't find it a problem with it on fully. I
think it's alright.
Yeah, you soon adjust to it and you soon get used to it, and it's not a problem at all. But we were very aware from the start that may cause a problem in the way that the eye works with the screen.
Yeah.
That you can actually turn off that central column in this camera view while playing with the Halo.
Yeah.
It actually, I think it frames the image really nicely when you do so as well. It actually gives you almost like an insight into the track ahead of you. It almost focuses you even more so.
On the apex, yeah, it certainly does sort of guide the eye towards where you're meant to be turning in, where you're meant to be braking. And
yeah, I think when we first modelled the very early mocks of what we thought the Halo would end up being implemented like, because at the time we knew something was going to happen, we weren't sure it was going to look like that, so we did some early versions of our own, and we were quite close. And we realised that it actually isn't that detrimental to what you can see. It's actually not that bad. But obviously some people will prefer to turn it off, and that's personal preference. But I actually think it works quite well with it on either way.
I think it does. So basically, I'm another crack at the ERS management here. Gonna have another little. I like that. I like the little tweaks there.
I think that's one of the things that we go to such lengths with the attention to detail in the game. If you're going to model a Formula 1 car, you're going to model the wheel correctly, and then you're going to have the animations. It would look so wrong if those things just happened without the hands reaching out to the wheel and making those changes.
Yeah, absolutely. So
you can probably see as well, actually, I mean, just looking at day going round, this is a pretty drab day at Melbourne. This looks like a fairly overcast day, and there's obviously been a huge amount of work done on the visuals of the game this year. And you can see just. Funny enough, somebody tweeted me last night, and it was a video from one of our previous games commenting on how the clouds and the sky look so much better.
Yeah.
I was like, well, it's funny you should mention that.
Yeah.
And pulled out a video from this year's game, and as you can see there, the visual difference in the sky is massive, and it's one of those things that people just take the sky for granted as they walk around outside. In a game, obviously, it's a massive piece of interest.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really sets the mood in the environment. Like there, that does actually feel like a fairly damp, clammy day.
I mean, I certainly feel miserable. Like you feel like, because if you went halfway around the world to Australia,
I would expect sunsets.
And you'd be furious, wouldn't you, if it was like that in Melbourne? So I'm certainly getting that sense now. We're on it. Oh, here we go.
Really on the cusp.
Here we go. Is he going to crack it? Oh, I've
Yeah,
got
turn that
first
up
him.
now,
There we
he's
go.
got-
He's on
Loads
hot laps
in the
now.
tank. Loads in the tank.
But it's just there's the thing, see, the cars really do make a difference. And you kind of really build the atmosphere of the track and the race conditions,
It really
the
does.
weather and stuff, and it really does help to make it a lot more immersive experience.
So that was a very interesting piece of ERS management from Dave there. It was interesting how his skill carried him on the lap quite heavily.
Yeah.
He kept his lap time within reasonable bounds without using too much ERS. I find that I would be relying on it a lot more heavier, because if I was running with that sort of reduction in power, I'd be nowhere near the required lap time, but he managed to manage that quite nicely. So as you can see now, he's changed the ERS to showcase what he's done with the tyres as well. So you can see there that not only is the exterior temperature of the tyre, which is the higher of the two numbers at the moment, he's also got the carcass temperature of the tyre.
Okay.
In fact, sorry, I'm the wrong way around. He's actually the higher number is actually the carcass at the moment. He's pushed that temperature up to 93 degrees at the front.
So what kind of difference does the tyre carcass temperature make?
So it's actually a reduction in grip. So as with the outside of the tyre, it actually has a similar impact, but it's just much harder to manage over a long period of time. And also you'll find the weight of the car makes a difference as well. So if people are also adjusting their brake bias, they might want to be doing that more actively now to not generate too much heat by locking up.
Okay.
Yeah, all those things feed into it. But then to not alienate people who play at not quite that sort of level, if you're playing with traction control and ABS on, they actually do mitigate against it quite a lot, because it's lockups and wheel spin and really pushing a car that actually generate that heat and that wear. And because we model that correctly, as soon as you take that away from it, obviously it makes a significant difference.
Okay. So we're boxing now, so it looks like we're going to get ready for qualifying, if you're ready for that, Dave. An eyebrow raise and a scoff there.
I kind of feel like we should maybe go and try and buy him some upgrades. Unfortunately, they won't come this weekend, but we'll get them later.
Yeah, we'll sort them later for him. So, do you want to talk a little bit about multiplayer? Let's talk a little bit about multiplayer. What's changed for 2018? Again, we're just sort of feeding off the questions that the community's been asking, and obviously multiplayer has been a big one. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so I mean, I've spoken about this already online, but I say it's something that obviously isn't out there particularly heavily yet. As I mentioned to someone the other day, it's not the most glamorous thing to talk about.
No.
But there's lots of people who play it, and there's lots of excitement and interest around it, where it's not like talking about huge features and things like that. So what we've done this year is we've really focused on the feedback that we got from last year's game.
Yeah.
We have put extra members of staff onto the multiplayer team, so that they're concentrating very heavily on the tech that's behind it. We have, over the course of the last few weeks, been running a beta, and we are continuing to run that beta, and we'll continue running that beta actually up until almost the game launches. So we're getting data right up until the last minute, because we can continue to look at things, even up to that point.
Okay.
It's something that we set out to do this year. We wanted to get as much data as possible on how things worked, and how we can improve on those systems. And a lot of it comes very much from the feedback that we've got from the community on the areas that we should be concentrating on. So that's very much what we're doing. I would say Dave's got an interview.
Yeah.
Oh, so let's have a listen to this.
Here you are, making your debut in Formula One. You must be thrilled.
There we go.
So what do you think of that choice there,
How are you
Lee?
finding
What do you
things
think of
in the
that?
team? Are you
That's
settling
quite
in?
humble.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I mean, he's showing his sportsmanship really, I think.
Okay. Yeah, so
Oh,
this...
then again, maybe he's starting to see a bit more cockiness coming
Are you
in.
just
It's that
aiming to race
Italian
for
flair,
Formula
isn't it?
And do you know what? I knew he was going to pick that. that was the most picked answer at E3 as well. While I was at E3, pretty much anybody picked that. Anyway, so back to the multiplayer. So beyond obviously the huge amount of work we've been doing on the tech and firming things up, we've actually implemented a new feature as well. So I say the plan was not to go heavily on features in the multiplayer, but to work on the areas that people were feeding back to us on. But the new feature this year is something that we feel really strongly about. It's something we've wanted to do for quite a while, which is the super license.
Okay.
So the super license is a term that we borrowed from Formula One.
Yeah.
Formula One drivers have to have a super license. In game, the super license is a ranking system. So when the player's racing, they will be rated based on their skill. So whether they're quick or slow, and they'll be rated based on their sort of driver etiquette, whether they're off the track a lot, whether they're ramming people, whether they're getting penalties. Yeah. And you'll see as you're racing, how that impacts on your license. So you'll want to obviously get a good rating in both cases. So it doesn't matter if you're not a fast driver, because you'll be match made then with players of a similar skill level.
Yes.
So everybody gets a good experience, because I'm not the fastest person in the world. If I got match made with Dave, I'd get annihilated. you know, I want to go online and have a good online experience.
Yeah, of course.
And I want people who race cleanly and people who play F1 how F1's meant to be driven as the sport in real life.
Absolutely, yeah.
But for people who don't want to do that, they'll get match made against the people who choose to play the game that way. So we're hoping that the super license will become a badge of honour for people. You know, you'll want to see that rating, you'll want to be a well-rated player, you'll want to be a well-respected player. And the thinking behind it is basically, you know, the esports program's absolutely flying. I mean, you look at where it's going this year, you look at the calibre of drivers that we've attracted. They're coming from all areas of not only real motorsport, but other sims that are bringing them into the game as well.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is. And we want to feed that programme with new drivers as well. You know, there's a lot of recognisable faces and names coming back from last year, and as I say, coming from other disciplines. And we want to be able to breed more skilled racing drivers. And the best way to do that is to get them into the ranked online lobbies, you know, and get them to have some clean and exciting races. And that's very much what the super license is all about.
Okay, I think that's a fantastic system. Obviously, from a personal point of view, you know, there's nothing more frustrating than going through practice qualifying, and getting to a race, and then you're racing with someone who is just there to sort of cause a bit of havoc. But also, you know, in real motorsport, you know, lots of championships up and down the country, around the world, have different levels, different rankings, different. They're marked out as rookies or veterans. And I think, you know, it's nice that has fed its way into F1 2018, because that'll help everyone have fun in the same way.
Very much so. I mean, that's the thing. It's a case of, as well, the races can be very long as well. So it may be that I've got online to do a 50% race, and there's one disruptive player that completely destroys it for me part way through. But if people are rated correctly, then that shouldn't be the case. You know, I should get drivers that want to have the same experience that I want to have.
Also, the fact that, you know, as a not particularly fast player online, shall we say, you know, that my experience won't be ruined by not being a particularly quick driver, but being a particularly safe one.
Yeah. So performance is one of the things that we take into account, but it's not the most important thing in terms of the quality of the experience that you're going to get. So obviously the performance of people you race against, you want somebody who's of a similar skill level, but yeah, you don't want somebody who's going to reverse off the start line and start doing
that has happened to me before. So right, Dave, let's again, apologies already. Guys, where do you think Dave's going to qualify?
Tell us.
Dead last.
Tell us where you think that Dave's going to go.
Peace card, dead last.
Well, at least the sun's shining now.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, right? Both realistic and metaphorically now that Dave's sort of got a free run of this. Let's see what you can do. I'm excited. I'm sure Dave is as well.
It's not distracting.
Yeah. Let's ride on board with Dave on this now.
Way! Not last.
We're not last. that's a cracking effort.
That's a very realistic representation of the performance of the car.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Partially my fault.
Let's have a. Oh wow, Bottas has had a stinker there, hasn't he? There we go.
You said
Yes.
no.
Oh,
Yes.
Have it, Lance. Have it.
That shows that difficulty level with that car. Yeah, you're performing around your teammate. That's pretty impressive. So what was the top positions? Let's have a quick look. Let's see who's at the top.
Oh, Max. Is it not? Oh,
nice.
It's tight at the top as well, isn't it?
Wow.
Look at Alonso there. Oh, Fernando, what you done?
I wonder what happened to
you've
Valtteri.
done?
That was
Yeah,
interesting.
not sure.
Let's see how Dave performs in the race.
Yes.
Cool.
If you did say 19th place, give yourself a pat on the back because you were right.
Yeah.
I did see some in the comments that said 19th.
Right, so basically this is going to be a five lap
I wouldn't be
race.
surprised. This is an interview now as well.
Oh.
What with that performance? Let's see if it comes up with one.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. It's been a big feature
Got away with it.
so far.
He's ducked for this one.
But does that mean does no one care about 19th place?
Well, I mean, sometimes the interview may well have been very much about the fact that that was considered to be not a great performance, but based on the level of the car,
Yeah.
that was actually pretty much performing where expected.
Absolutely.
So, and beating his teammate is actually a bonus because that proves that he's the stronger driver of the two within the team. So it's not always about winning. You know, it's about positioning well for the team that you're driving for, getting a position in the car that is expected.
Well, I mean, like in Formula One, because a lot of the drivers don't win races, but as fans and as viewers, we know who talented drivers are because you see that they're eking out that performance from their respective cars. So that's good to see.
Yeah, I think it's always a great metric for how you're performing is how your teammates doing in the game. Obviously that's a measure of how skilled the driver is in real life.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want to do is get beaten repeatedly by your teammate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's the most even footing out of.
And it can be demoralising as well, I guess.
Yeah.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the thing is, your teammate is your natural rival, your natural first rival, and so they're the person you're always going to want to beat.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and then obviously in game this year we give the player the choice to select a secondary rival as well. So your teammate's your first rival, but whoever you challenge yourself to beat beyond that is obviously betting your skill level. Basically, you're saying, right, if I beat this guy, I get more reputation bonus. And it's like, well, if you don't, down goes that reputation.
Yeah, it's that big. Well, it's murky and miserable again. It's we've come all this way to Australia and we've had one day of sun.
I know. I'd certainly expect more than that.
Right, let's listen to this.
At least
start.
it's not raining.
Yeah.
The interesting thing here is the changes made to the AI. Instantly there into the first corner, it wasn't a huge gap up the inside for Dave to take a dive. You can see there's look at this, look at this!
Oh my, Lance has done
So
it.
Dave's gone in cautiously because there's an incident ahead and Stroll's capitalised on it and thrown one up the inside. I mean, that's phenomenal driving. I know these two wheel to wheel. This is going to go on for a corner, I think, a couple at least.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think that's the thing. You really got to have eyes in the back of your head. So you're looking into what's going on ahead, but then Stroll really capitalised on that with a late braking manoeuvre around the inside. The car's sparking away as well.
Oh, there we go. He's had
I'm
him.
not sure that's. Ooh.
Oh, he's made it stick.
Do you know, against a better car, that would have been a very different thing. I think that Lance conceded that was.
Yeah, that was a bold move. I think if you're a team principal on the.
Yeah. I'm wondering if Lance has picked up a little bit of front wing damage as well because he seems to be dropping back quite quickly already.
That might have been from when Dave swiped it there in
so,
that corner.
Yeah. But look at these two up front here. We've got Leclerc and Van Dorn. Leclerc's done a move around the outside of Van Dorn, but Van Dorn's not giving up.
Oh, yellow
flag as well. So he's not going to finish the move at least. But now they've resumed. Oh, that is brave.
He's made it stick as well. That's incredible. I'm genuinely in awe.
Yeah. I think it's going to get a lot harder to make up places very soon.
What do people in the comments think? Listen, don't take out your teammate. Don't worry. Don't worry. The last ninja car. What a great name. He didn't. He's a clean driver. Nice AI from Jason TT.
They're really strong. So I think Dave got away with those moves quite luckily there. They a lot of the time, if he hadn't been quite as aggressive as he was, they certainly would have closed the door on him. And I think also as he reaches teams with a slightly better car, he'll certainly not be getting past them that easily. But also this is a very short race as well, so everybody's running flat out and using all of their fuel. They're using all of their ERS up as quickly as possible. So in a longer term race, obviously that's going to ebb and flow very differently.
And not just at the pit stops, of course, obviously.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
When you take the pit stop, I mean, we heard in the Dead Diary from last week that obviously the overcut and undercut can really work.
It makes a big difference. Certainly the performance of the tyres. If you can work out where those drops are going to come from, and you actually use your practice session thoroughly, that's interesting. I'm not sure if the clerk was.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he was looking for a move or whether he was going to block you there, but.
It is I, the clerk.
So what's the AR level?
I think David was about 100.
Yeah, he's. I think he's top lined it.
Yeah. So let's see if Leclerc feels like he's going to try for a move, or whether he's actually going to move to the centre to block there.
Yeah,
he's not feeling threatened.
Looking at that ARS deployment as well, we're on full whack as well. We were talking about before.
Yeah, that's not going to last for long at all.
Yeah. He's heard.
No, he's saving. And this is a good place to try and save as well. It also, I find, in these corners in particular, with Melbourne being a traction limited circuit, he's run it low and none on these few corners, because it does give you a great chance to not only save some and conserve some on the brakes and to recharge on the brakes, but also it helps with traction. And sometimes being smooth and that little bit slower on the throttle is actually going to get you out of the corners tidier, and then turn it back up.
Absolutely.
Oh, he's defending. Who's behind? Ericsson's having a look.
Ericsson up his trumpet there.
Be interesting to see what's going on behind there. That's certainly looking close. And that defending's caused Dave to drop back a little bit as well.
As a side note, I've been noticing those sparks.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Yeah, and again, you wouldn't normally see them in Australia with the sunlight, but because it's such a murky day.
He's going up the outside.
Dear me.
Yeah, so but you mentioned the sparks. I mean, obviously, not only I've already mentioned the clouds, but we've done a lot of work on the particle effects in game as well. So, thankfully for David, it's not chucking it down with rain, but the experience of the wet this year is terrifying. You know, you can get that claustrophobic feel of the spray around you when you're against the pack. And again, it really puts you in the world of Formula 1. Very immersive, very realistic.
And particularly imagining cockpit cam as well. Really kind of makes it.
Yeah, it's intense. I mean, just a simple thing there, the sun is coming from the trees, you know, it's things like that that just make it look so believable this year. Is that making any inroads into...
Well, this is... that's a good save, isn't it? That's a really good save.
So, and that's the level of finesse and adjustment in the car that we've got with the tech that we've got for the suspension this year and the chassis update. So you could see there just how abruptly the car bounced off that curve, and that's what you see. If you're going to hit a big curve like that, you're going to get a real kick through the chassis and through the suspension, and that's where the car really does pick. And also with that level of connection that Dave's got there to be able to catch it.
Yeah.
So suspension, it's 1,000 hertz this year.
It is, yeah. The refresh of the suspension and the chassis updates have now been increased. And they work hand in hand to give that effect. As you see, they're just riding that curve.
So we've got a question saying, what do the white and yellow bars show in reference to the ERS? I think we touched on this earlier, didn't we? So on this, on the display there.
Yeah. So the large blue bar is how much the entire battery's got. Okay. The white bar is how much you can deploy over that lap based on the rules, based on the actual amount of kilojoules that you're actually allowed to use over the course of one lap. And the yellow bar is harvesting. You can only harvest a certain amount over a lap as well. And there's no point running in low or none for the whole lap and just harvesting loads when you've harvested your maximum that's available. So at the moment, you can see there, Dave's actually got a full tank for deployment, but he's only got about 50% of his battery as a whole left. Okay. He's not harvested hardly anything yet this lap, but as you can see as he's braking there, he's harvesting energy.
He's doing a cracking job here. But this is just like, this is such an accurate representation of Formula 1 because, you know, he went from attacking to defending within 2 corners, and that's basically exactly what happens when you're attacking. You're being caught from behind.
I think what we saw at the beginning was a prime example of that. I mean, Dave was looking to sort of hold his position, and instead there was some chaos going on ahead. So he braked a little cautiously to avoid the incident, and Stroll took advantage of it and flew down the inside. I mean, it certainly looks like Stroll may have taken his front wing with some damage, but he's slipped back now. It looks like he's just behind Ericsson.
So we have just had one question from the stream. So is there one particular new feature that you guys are super proud to have improved on from last year's game?
I think it's impossible to isolate one feature with this year's game because there's so many things that tie together, and we knew that if we didn't do them all in the way that we've done them, it wouldn't come off. And that's very much that, you know, whatever you do in your career, everything has an impact. And it's not just about the racing. So, you know, the on-track stuff's amazing, but also it's about how you manage your personality with the press. It's how you work on the R&D. It's how you look at your career. I mean, we've not even spoken about it this afternoon, but I've spoken about it certainly in previous interviews. about how you have to negotiate contracts. You know, that may be 2 or 3 times in the season I can negotiate a contract, and I can either stay with my existing team and look for a better deal, or go to another team and try and get a better deal.
I think that deserves a round of applause, to be honest, because that's a good effort. That's a good effort.
We made you work hard. It certainly made you work hard.
So he was in 17th place there, so he kind of increased his position by 2. Was really good going.
So,
I'm tempted to say we should watch the replay of that first lap incident and then see what was kicking off there.
Div, would you like to dive into a race where you might be able to fight for a win? With your choice of car, and you can set it up. Show everyone what you've got. You up for that? You'll try. So there we go. We've had a little
replay.
Have we?
Yeah, let's have a look at the replay.
Let's watch that first incident. Have we got the brawn unlocked in this build?
I don't think we do. People you're going to have to wait for that. That's something you're going to have to wait till next week.
Just looking at the image quality there, you can see again how realistic that looks. Unfortunately, in the slightly dull conditions, you can still see it there. We've got the effect of the mirage on the track surface in the background, and that just really does make it look so realistic. So
Stroll, there's all sorts going on
all over the place.
So Stroll's already alongside you, and
that was a naughty move. That mind, I'd be.
That was impressive.
I would not be happy if I was
Claire Williams. He capitalised on that. He really did see a gap and went for it.
This is where it gets a bit isn't it? Was it at the chicane where we dispatched Stroll? It is here, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's from quite far back here, isn't it? Blimey, look at that. He doesn't lose anything there, but
I lost it with
So Lou, we have had another question in the chat, which is, what's your favourite classic car in F1?
It's one that we've had previously. It's a toss-up, really, to be honest. I really love the Renault because I've always been a Renault fan, and it's just a beautiful car. I also like the '92 Williams because I was a huge Nigel Mansell fan, and also that is just a car that was just light years ahead of everything else of its day. It's still got technology on it that's been banned in the sport since 1992 because it was so advanced. Those are probably my 2 favourites. I do enjoy the Brawn, and I was doing one of the challenges the other day, and I was using the Red Bull, and it's just the difference between the current cars with all that torque and that additional weight is so noticeable when you drive something that's got